Je suis une clandestine, clandestine.
brings me back to you. I swear we belong. I'm still hanging on, but something brings me back to you.
still care now? Do you still care now? Tell me, oh, oh. Do you still care now? Tell me, oh, oh. Care now? Tell me, oh, oh. Do you still care now? Tell me, oh, oh.
What's up? My name is St. John. Welcome to the Ignorant Forever Show. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey. Hey, 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 hey. Only love a real nigga after those trap. I trap. Nigga came off for the mat. No turning back. Only love a real nigga after those trap. That's fact. Really came off for the mat. No turning back. Nigga, ever know it's track. She too lit, she the one I could give. She too poor, she too blow, she too dope. Take a list, it's the life, don't forget. Sober nights, take a list. She the one, you the one, I'm the one. For the trick, I ain't never tell a lie. That's my heart, I'm up to die. If this feeling's in my head, may we never testify. You tell me what you love me. Promise not to change your mind. Feel like sleeping in the middle of tonight. The face turn out, you turn off the light. You know, I try. You came off the mind. No turning back. Only live a real nigga ever moves. That's fact. You came off the mind. No turning back. Only live a real nigga ever moves.
Hey, can I try something?
Sure.
I want to share my screen quick and just see what happens to me.
Okay.
I think I lose everything, but hmm. Hmm.
I am in contact with our IT person just in case we have any issue. Maybe he can help you.
Oh, okay. How come it's not letting me get my, hang on.
Your presentation?
Yeah, weird.
Let me tell him. Hold on.
Uh,
Jaime, ¿estás ahí?
there it is. Got it.
Ah, no, es que David.
Hang
Ah,
on.
no, ya lo logró. Es que no podía.
Just un momento.
Okay.
Hmm. Am I sharing now? What do you see?
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I see your presentation. It says
But
transition.
I can never see you during this little bit of the beginning. So I had my questions on this
Okay.
same screen, but I can't do it because I can't. I will ask them differently.
But I can see your presentation. But you want to see the
But I can't see the
participants.
students.
Do you want
Yeah.
me to present?
Oh,
I could present, but then you would have to tell me.
when to change a slide. What does this
Yeah.
look like?
You know what? I think you can leave that as it is, but make it bigger because it's pretty small.
The other one is bigger, right? Right.
Yeah,
So
the other one is
if I
bigger.
share that, you're getting just this.
Exactly. Hold on, Miss Paula. I'm gonna. David, I sent the link to your students. Do you know if they received them?
What is that?
I sent the link to your students.
Yes.
Yeah, they got them?
Yeah. Yep. They're
Oh.
going to be on. I don't know if they're here yet or not, but they should be.
No, it's okay. No one's here because we have a little issue with the invitation. So that's
You
why
had an
Paula-
issue.
Yes, that's what Paula was calling me.
Okay. Technology.
No, the thing is that since she was handling the communication with all the schools, I thought she was sending the link. So she sent me the email to me, but she didn't send it to the other students.
Oh, okay.
But then okay, she's doing it right now. So they might be like 5 minutes late.
They knew about it. They just didn't have the link.
Exactly.
So I just have a few slides in the beginning to I call it level set to make sure that we're all on the same page. And then I was going to go to this questions, but I will end my presentation and just ask the questions, but then maybe bring out that whiteboard option. And can I ask you to take notes maybe?
I can record.
Like there's a note option. I'll show you that maybe you can do. So if I'm here, I think I can stop sharing, stop presenting, and then there's
I think
Annabella.
I think Annabella.
Annabella. So whiteboard.
I cannot see anymore. And then we have Ishika.
Jessica.
Ishika.
Hey there.
Hello.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. David, so I will make the introduction, right?
Yeah.
And then you will do a little presentation. And
Yep.
then once you hit the questions, you will stop the presentation, right?
Yes. And then we'll have a discussion. And then I just need to, I was trying to take notes on screen, but I can't figure out how to do it. So
Oh.
I'll do the job.
And you need notes because I will record this meeting.
I just
You
think
need
it's
notes?
fun. Yeah. I'll take notes myself on my piece of paper.
Okay, David. Sounds good.
I thought they had an option on Google Meeting to do that, but I don't see it. Do you guys know? You guys don't do Google Meets, do you? No. Okay. So Veronica, these two fine women here help me with my class. So they know everything and even a little bit more than what I do about some of this topic. So
Oh, wow, you guys are very lucky to work with David. And David is very lucky to have you.
I'm lucky
Vice
to have
versa.
them. They're
Vice-
saving my butt all the time.
That's why I say vice versa.
Vice versa, exactly. And Veronica, I met through a friend who worked at the University of Minnesota in our department. And then she's a niece of a friend or something like that. Is that right? Daughter?
a
Something
daughter,
like that.
yeah.
Anyhow, so we've been doing stuff back and forth with her high school in Columbia for the last 4 years, maybe, or something like that. So I lecture a little bit and talk to students. And this one is more like, I just don't always have a good grasp on what people are thinking, especially high school students in Columbia, and what they know and what they don't know about climate and what they're feeling. And so to help me lecture, I just we should have a little conversation with students. Then Veronica's like, oh, we should bring in your students too. So we get a little bit of a, what's the difference between our thinkings here and there. So
Okay. It's exciting. Who is the, so you mentioned that Veronica, you knew someone in the BBE department?
yes, it was before your time. Her name was Blanca Martinez, and she is from Columbia, was from Columbia. I think still lives there half the year.
Yeah,
And she was our lab manager.
in
So
biology, right?
yeah, yep.
So we have Sophia and we have Laura. How are you?
Hi, I'm great, thanks.
Okay. So are you guys from La Enseñanza or which school are you connecting from?
Yes, I am from La Enseñanza. Also, Sofia is.
Okay. So this is the school that David has been, really speaking with the girls. They're very into climate change, a lot of awareness regarding this topic.
Yes, I have found the education really good and really knowledgeable about climate change, energy stuff. So keeps me on my toes.
So now we're gonna have someone from another school, from San Jose Las Vegas. So Sara, how are you? Sara and Isabel. So I think we should give it like about 3 more minutes for other schools to connect. We are missing 3 schools. Okay, so 6 people. So I think we could start, and then the other persons that will join, they will pick up on the conversation, because we have 45 minutes, so we don't really want to be so late. So first, we really want to welcome and thank you for joining. I like to call this an open discussion regarding climate change. So we have the privilege of having with us David and 2 of his team from the University of Minnesota to have an overview on really different opinions from universities and schools in North America and in Colombia regarding this topic. So thank you so much for joining. So I leave it to you, David.
Awesome. Thank you. Just a little bit of an introduction. So Veronica and I have been doing some work together on education, energy, and climate change education for the last few years. And I'm always more curious about what students are thinking and what they understand and what they don't understand as to help influence how I teach my class and what topics I might bring up. And I think right now is really a difficult time because of all the climate change we're seeing. And my dialogue today, I think, is about what gives hope in this changing transition time. So I think that's what I'd like you to think about. And we gave you a few questions to ponder. Maybe you got them, maybe you didn't. But we're going to ask a few questions at the end. I'm not sure exactly the logistics of how you get 8 people to take turns answering questions. It's not critical that all of you answer all the same questions, every one of the questions, but I would love some sort of discussion. So I get a better perspective on that. Once again, it's University of Minnesota and Columbia, various schools in Columbia. So anyhow, thank you for joining. I've got a quick presentation that I hope to show, and let's see what I can do here. Is that good? All right, so the topic again is transition to net zero and where we find hope. I talked a little bit about my welcome message. I just want to have this discussion, open discussion. So hopefully it's nothing formal. It's not a debate. We're just trying to get some information. I have a few slides to do this level set, is what they call it here in many conferences, like, hey, are we all on the same page with this topic? And I think we are, but I just want to make sure. And it also presents some of the things that I'm thinking about. So I've got about 5 minutes, maybe 7 slides to just kind of get us focused on the topic. I think we're all on the same page that climate is changing, that humans are influencing this change through our activities. Wildfires, this is a picture of wildfires in Canada. This is a picture of some flooding in Colombia in 2023. So I think we're all very aware of that, and we all understand what's going on. I think the goal for us globally is this net zero emissions by 2050, with net zero emissions being we capture as much as we release. So it's not that we will not be releasing carbon dioxide or methane or other greenhouse gases. It's just that we will be not emitting more than we're releasing. And so that's the definition of net zero, which is different than carbon zero. And so we are here right now with fossil fuels and with land use changes. We are about 40 billion tons per year of greenhouse gases that we're emitting, and we need to be down here by 2050. So you look at that, and that is like a huge, dramatic, like, wow, we dropped from here to here in that short of time. It's a really steep curve, but I would also point out that we had a very steep curve going this way. So for me, one of the things that brings me hope is, like, we ramped up our emissions really quickly. I think it's also very feasible that we could drop them really quickly also through efficiencies, through technology, and through some capture. The first breakdown I have on these emissions is by source, and it's saying that indeed most of the emissions are from our fossil fuels and energy. Through industry, transportation, buildings, that we have a lot. So 75%, about 3/4 of it, is from our fossil fuel emissions through energy production and energy use. The rest is from agriculture, forestry, some land use changes. So other stuff going on, but our primary focus, I think, is in this energy sector. I think the other thing that we are all aware of is that it's a really uneven distribution of if we look at where the carbon dioxide is coming from. And there's some really cool graphs tracking, like, you know, if I buy a product here in Minnesota and it's made in China, and some of the supplies are coming from Colombia or Africa, where all the carbon is actually, if the product that I purchase in the US, where are those carbon emissions actually being generated? And so it's a map that looks much different than this. This is specifically, like, if we looked at the emissions, fossil emissions from the United States, the total emissions, billions of tons, and we divide that by the number of people, we get this per capita emissions. So this per capita emissions in the US is 14.86. It's one of the higher ones for sure. Colombia, you are at 1.78 tons of CO2 per person per year. Niger is at 0.11. The world average is 4.69. So really an uneven distribution of the emissions that are coming from these different countries. But when we think about the United States, if our GDP right now is 11 times the GDP of Colombia. So when we look at our GDP, gross domestic product per capita, we're at 11 times more in the US. So a lot of our emissions, it's not my individual emissions at my house that I'm using so much. It's because we have this huge economy industry that's pumping out products that might go all over the world. And that is where that total emissions comes from. So remember, it's total emissions divided by the number of people. But definitely differences across the world. Right now, we also know that energy demand is increasing. There's estimates that we are going to be anywhere between 15 and 50% more energy use. So right now, our energy use is this 160,000 terawatts. So by 2050, we're talking about like this kind of slope. If we are going to be by 2050, if we continue energy use the way we're going right now, the way it's predicted. So without some changes in what we're doing, we're going to see that huge growth in demand for energy, which is a problem. We're trying to reduce emissions, and energy is a source of much of our emissions. That's a problem. This demand is coming from increasing population growth, rising prosperity. As people decide they want washing machines and they didn't have them before, they're going to be using more energy. The benefits are that we are going to see some efficiencies. So hopefully this curve, and I think the curve should be a little bit flatter like this, as we move forward to 2050. If we look at a net zero plan in the same kind of context, lots of different groups have come up with net zero planning and what that might look like. And this is one of them. And it is showing that this top line, this curve on the top line, is our energy demand that's predicted. So they're showing a slower energy demand increase than what was actually in the last slide, but this is their predictions. And they're saying that our energy use, these lines here, so everything under the green is, everything under the green is a fossil fuel energy use. Above the green is the renewable energy use, so low carbon emissions energy use, and then this gap in here is more efficiencies. So actually decreasing the energy demand a little bit through efficiencies. So that is the goal. And so we're saying that right now with this picture, we're seeing that we're not close to net zero. Net zero meaning we are still releasing this much carbon. It's in fossil fuels. It's all is fossil fuels. So we are still emitting carbon dioxide with this net zero plan. But that same plan then looks at this. This is the same graph, but by use by sector. And it's showing that a lot of that fossil fuel emissions, so we're using fossil fuels still, but because we're doing carbon capture and storage, we're going to be sucking that carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere or capturing it before it's released. So that's how we get to net zero. That's one of the theories on how to get to net zero. And a lot of people have lots of discussions about how to do that. That's not really the topic of today, but that is our goal, is to look at like, how do we get to net zero? And it's not going to be easy, but it's looking like it's possible. So with that, I just want to, I think we have a frame to get started, and I'm going to quit sharing after I ask this first question. The first discussion question was, this is scary stuff. We've got a lot of work to do. I think people understand that. But what is it that keeps you hopeful? What technologies, policies, groups that you follow? What is it that you see that is keeping you hopeful? And maybe in the next 30 years, what do you think will be most impactful? So I'm going to stop sharing, and you guys can
So we have Sophia Gomez, who raised her hand.
Yes, thank you. Also, as you were saying, for me, more than the promises and the creation of new treaties and the world power saying that they will reduce carbon dioxide emissions, and for me, what keeps me hopeful are the actions, also the innovations and the new technologies that are being created and developed. Because, for example, as you said, the increase of renewable sources is very important in that matter. And for example, in 2050, it is estimated, as you show us, that energy will increase from 21% to 44% in the US. So statistics like that are the things that keep me hopeful. Or, for example, the technologies of the 4.0 revolution that will help create a better environment and for us all. For example, digital twins. I think it's a new technology that looks very promising. A digital twin is basically a technology of the four revolution that consists of creating like a virtual replica of something. In this case, for example, it could be used for the earth or to like optimize the operation of things that could help us create a better environment. Also, there are new inventions like meat impression. For example, there are people that are trying to create meat by 3D impressions, and that could also help decrease the main sources of carbon dioxide since animal industry it is known to be one of the main sources that produces pollution. And also the us as young people and the desire to do better. For example, with there are certain groups that are in charge of making the planet better. And for example, I want to point out an example, and is that in Philippines, which is one of the top 5 countries that produce half of the plastic that end up in oceans, one team partnered with a group and started recycling more than 30.2 million pieces of plastic and started creating chairs for schools. So those type of technologies, those type of innovations are the things that keep me hopeful.
Well,
Thank you, Sophia.
yes,
We
thank
have
you.
we have another question from, oh no, we have another answer from Isabel and Sara, who also raised their hand.
All right, so as she said, we agree with lots of things that they said, but we also wanted to like remark something that took an interest in us. When we started investigating, we found that Colombia participated really like actively on a lot of conversations, discussions that the world was having around climate change. The Chancellor of Colombia mentions that the climate change problematic is the biggest threat humanity is facing, and that its solutions require efforts from all states, organizations, companies, and people, which we agree a lot on, and we are very glad. And it makes us hopeful to think that our own country really cares about problematics such as climate change, even when we are in developing country. Also, it is very interesting and important Paris Agreement. It is an agreement that we signed, well, Colombia signed in 2015, and it includes lots of points that can make regulations easier for countries that are in development. We think a really important point from the Paris Agreement it is that it is taking into account social aspects and like the vulnerability that countries like Colombia can have. So the point of it is that like countries that have lots of resources and things to help other countries can offer that help each year, and that makes it really an international cooperation. It's not only cooperation, but also commitment to those goals that we are saying that we are going to make come true.
Not only like the international agreements that Colombia has, but also like the national and the local activities that Colombia is having. Like for example, that it gets like a lot of importance to these problematics and the policies that it has in the local. Like for example, it has the pico y placa ambiental, and this is very important because it increase, for example, the use of public transport and reduces the emissions that all these cars generate in the roads. So it is really important that Colombia gives this importance to this problematic that is really necessary.
Emerging technologies also keep us really hopeful, as she mentioned, I think Sophia mentioned. Well, fourth revolution technologies are really important, but we also would like to give like an importance to other technologies that are just being developed that maybe right now aren't as viable as others, but in a future they will be really important by just the fact that people are ideating and being creative towards problematics such as climate change, referring to carbon capture as the technology we focused on.
Thank you.
very nice to meet
I believe someone else raised their hand, but I think they lowered it. Not sure if anybody else has any other input. Yeah, Laura, it was you. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, first of all, I really want to apologize for not being able to go in the meeting earlier. I was having some troubles with the link, but responding to the question, I focused it mainly on three aspects. Oh, my screen froze. I don't know if you're listening.
Yes, we can listen to you and we can see you.
Okay, so the first aspect I focused on was pollution. So mainly plastic pollution, because I've recently discovered some technologies regarding that topic, and I've found them very, very interesting. For example, Sofia was mentioning 3D printing for meat. I recently discovered a brand that produces filament for 3D printing. It's a plastic, but it is able to absorb CO2 and other gases. So you basically print with the plastic, and then with the surface area, it captures the gas molecules. So I think that is a very, very interesting topic regarding carbon capture. Also, other types of filament for 3D printing are biodegradable. So I think that is a really hot topic, or like something that we will look towards in the future, and something that is very interesting to take a look to in the future, and like go back to it. Also, regarding technology, I've recently seen many architectural trends. So building a green walls, basically with trees, it's something that I've seen lately a lot in Medellin, like buildings with green roofs or full of plants on the outside, and that really helps carbon capture as well, because we basically live in a city, but we need more space for trees. And although Medellin has a lot of space for trees and is really green, it's very nice to see that people are starting to put green in buildings as well. Or I've seen some, also one, I believe it was in Amsterdam, where the windows were covered in like cyanobacteria or something that also captures carbon. So I think it's finding the ways to like make a connection between carbon capture technologies and ways that we already have in cities. So it's not as disruptive, but also helps the environment. And as for groups, I've also seen a lot of groups in Colombia as well. Lately, we had a fashion event. It is one of the largest fashion events in Latin America. It's called Colombia Moda. And this year, they dedicated like an entire section towards sustainable fashion. And I think that is very important to give awareness to that part as well. And there are a lot of sustainable brands. So it's again the same thing, making a connection with things that already exist and being able to start developing technologies and climate aiding technologies to existing things.
Thank you. We have Annabella.
Okay, all right. I won't. I'll be quick here, but my initial thoughts when, well, from hearing all of your conversations were like they all followed a similar theme. But my first thought was initially laying a foundation and asking, is it possible? Because there's a lot of language around the world is burning. Like we can't. It's not going to get any better. But at least in David's class, that was one of the most influential pieces, was actually looking at the numbers and looking what needs to shift right now. And can we achieve these goals? Like, how realistic is that? And how realistic is it that we will maintain business as usual? And what does that scenario look like now in 50 years and in 100 years? And then my next thing was following the policy track. So in the US, we have the Inflation Reduction Act, which offers a lot of tax credits and some like unprecedented funding opportunities for individuals, but mostly for state and local and tribal governments. So that is a very hopeful bill, in my opinion. Minnesota specifically just passed a bill committing to 100% clean energy by 2040, which I think is very empowering and also hopeful that we are getting those pieces to legislation and they're passing and we're making progress towards them. It sort of represents a systematic shift that's happening in our state, at least. I also wrote down, when I read these questions, I also wrote down generational awareness, which I think Sophia talked about, how the younger generations seem to have more awareness or at least interest, and they're more vocal about addressing this as something that people can essentially dedicate their career to. So my school now has a major that I'm majoring in sustainable systems management, but that was not a super common topic in the industry. So when I have industry professionals like ask what I'm majoring in, they say things like, we did not have that when I went to school, which I think is hopeful. My last piece is the technology too. So we have a lot of cool technology that you guys are talking about too. Around me, we do a lot of work with green hydrogen and ammonia, which involves like cross-sector collaboration and sector coupling. And then you can like throw energy storage in there too. The new and innovating ways, I think, keep it exciting and also keep it hopeful.
David, so we have Isabel and Sarah, they raised their hand, but as we have more questions, I wanted to see if you would like to move to another question, have some comments, or, your mic, your mic is off.
Yeah, we have 15 minutes left and we've got a couple other thoughts to give. Those are some really good responses. And I would love if you have more that you didn't get a chance to share, you can write those down, send them to me or send them to Veronica. That would be awesome. I would like to get on to a second question. And maybe it's two parts. One is like, what can you do personally? What are you doing? And how much do you think that's a relative contribution of your efforts that you can make? So what are you doing right now that personally to make the difference? And does that feel good to you? Does that make sense? Maybe?
Yeah, that makes sense. So we have Isabel and Sarah who raised their hand first. And then we'll Laura, once they're done, you can jump in.
So we wanted to make a comment on what Annabella, something that she said, but I think we can work with the second question too. So we wanted to talk about something that has been like normalized once you start to participate in lots of these events. But we think these type of events where we discuss and we debate about these kind of topics are really important, because it forms like a critical way of aborting the topic. It's just not information and data and more information, but we're critically analyzing that data. We are critically talking about possible solutions and just not seeing a bunch of possibilities, but taking into account different aspects that what could be viable, for example, or what could not. And I think that's very important, especially as some of you mentioned, the younger generations, to address not only the problematics but the solutions that are being given right now.
So we're talking about like to getting informed about what is happening right now. It is really important. I think it is like the best thing we can do right now, and also like taking actions about it. But getting informed about what is happening and getting informed about all the technologies and the options that are getting right now and are getting created to solve this problematic, because it's not only like just do what they said to you, like about what you know, take actions about it, and like know about what you need to do and why it's happening this.
So basically, like addressing what she said, we think that an informed citizen is able to participate in these type of discussions over climate change and not only discuss about it, but create solutions to get creative in a viable way, to say the least, because in order to create new proposals or to accept ones that are being proposed right now, you need to be informed about the topic. And it is fundamental for young generations to do that.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you. So the first thing I was thinking when answering this question was, but the first thing that came to my mind was what everyone always says, like recycle, turn the lights off, and those basic things. But I was thinking, and what else can we do besides that? And I found something really inspiring actually, and it's as simple as studying. We are all studying towards this. So being a part of the academic world can be related to this in a very, very close like environment. So for example, you can go into research and develop all the things that David was showing in the beginning, or also management, like Annabella was mentioning earlier. You can manage environmentally friendly solutions and systems, and I found that really, really amazing. Or for my case, engineering, I believe to one day be able to develop technology that can help tackle climate change. As Isabella and Sarah were mentioning, it is very important to be aware and be knowledgeable about what surrounds us, about this situation and the context, but also to be inspired. I think relating to the first question, it is very, very important to stay inspired, because that's what keeps us hopeful, and it's kind of like gasoline to our ambition and to our ways to help the future. So I think one thing that helps me personally the most is to be exposed to content, be just in the know of the topic. So for example, I don't know, following people on Instagram that talk about it. For example, there is one photographer in Medellin who does diving. So he goes into the ocean and captures these amazing stuff of amazing pictures of really pretty animals in the ocean. But he talks about how in Colombia those animals are in danger, and talking to communities of how they help to take care of them. For example, turtles here, they are captured and accidentally captured by fishermen, but then they eat it. So what he does is collaborations with, for example, there is one hotel where if you go take the turtles, they will take care of them and give a exchange, like I think it was like chicken in exchange, so that they can eat the chicken and protect the turtles at the same time. So it's being aware that those things happen in the world, in your context, in your environment. It is very, very important to stay in the know. And lastly, support people who supports, because people say like donate, but not many people are really going to donate directly into a cause. So something that I've been noticing recently as well is that some brands, or at least here in Medellin, some brands are doing collaborations with organizations that for certain things. So, for example, there was this jewelry brand that made a collaboration with an organization that protects as well the ocean. So when you bought those pieces of jewelry, the profits went to the protection of the, I think was the Pacific Ocean in Colombia. So you don't have to directly support or be being a voluntary in an organization, but there are also indirect ways to supporting those organizations if you cannot do them directly.
Thank you. Now we are gonna give the word to Pablo Arango and then Sofia Rodriguez.
Okay, so hi everyone, it's a pleasure meeting you all. Couldn't speak earlier, but again, it's a pleasure. I wanted to say that regarding climate change, I think it's a very complex topic, and not only climate change, but also everything that's connected and related to it. And I find it very overwhelming because when people start addressing these kind of problems, and I actually felt very connected to some things that Laura mentioned before, when people start thinking about climate change, it's just like Laura said, either the pretty simple things like, I don't know, having shorter showers, or I don't know, driving an electric car. It's like very generic things. It's either people thinking that, or people thinking like, no, it's not something that concerns me. It's something very big. It's not something that I'm pretty responsible. And I think that's the key point. People start thinking that climate change is something global. Well, actually it is. But in order to solve it, things have to start, first of all, locally, and with a very good understanding. And that's where I wanted to make that connection to what Laura was saying, to the part of education, to actually understanding what the real problem is, specifically in whichever place that you live in. Let me give you an example. My school, I'm from here in Medellin. My school is located in the highest part of a mountain. And I don't know, for many of us, for example, I love riding my bike, but coming to school in my bike seems impossible because either I get very tired, I don't know, I start sweating, it feels terrible and starting the day that way. And then I was thinking, people could use their bikes. It would be a great alternative to, I don't know, using those cars that create that much carbon dioxide, all that stuff. That's a big problem. How can we face it? And then I heard a couple of years ago, there were some alumni from the school, and they were thinking of a project that it was creating some sort of rail system along Via Las Palmas to go up that way and to connect your bikes. And you are exercising, you are not using your car, and as you exercise, you are generating energy. I don't know what that project ended up being, but I thought it was very interesting because they were they thought of a problem locally. They knew that it could help and create a big impact, and it wasn't those kind of generic stuff that people usually think and talk about. So that's the key point: analyzing and understanding what's your reality locally. How can your solutions or your institution that you work in, I don't know, whichever place your community is based on, how can they be and create specific actions that create an impact, and then as they start accumulating, they will actually create that global impact that we've all been waiting for.
Thank you, Paolo. So now, Sofia.
Thank you. Okay, so I believe that something that is really important is being aware of consumerism. Because up to 100 billion garments are produced by the fashion industry per year, as an example, and each year as much as 92 million tons of clothing ends up in landfills, and only 20% of textiles are collected for reuse or recycling globally. almost 60% of all clothing material is actually plastic. And of course, being aware of this, we cannot change a whole like industry, but we can change how an industry works because we are the consumers. We can make the industry change and start doing more sustainable processes. In this case, with the material of the clothes. What Laura was saying is really close to this because if a lot of people is conscious about the impact of different industries, such as the fashion one, and we start to avoid things like fast fashion, surely it's going to make an impact. So, like Laura was saying, we as people, we can make and start thinking about how is the things that we consume every day and how the processes are and how it's affecting this stuff to the environment.
Thank you, David. Back to you.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what. So all these are really good, and I had the thought like, all of you suggesting that there is some individual activity, and a lot of times people will think like, I relate it to voting. My vote doesn't count. I'm one person. I can't do much by taking shorter showers or turning off the lights. But I think all of us, if all of us had that same attitude, nothing would change. So I think we all have to start small and work our way from there and get involved in the studying and all the rest. I'm going to have Ishka say something, and then I think we probably have to be done because you guys are on a deadline. But yeah, go ahead, Ishka.
Yeah, I think you guys made some really great points about like individual action. But I think one great thing would be like if we had a commitment to making companies also accountable. I think there's a big part in what giant consumerism companies can do and the impacts they have. They have much more resources than what we have individually. And I think if there's a commitment to say, I will not be purchasing, like your consumerism power has a large impact on what companies do and what policies they fund. And I think that is a big part of how we can play a large role in the future of climate change.
Yes, getting back to the consumerism thing, I think being really aware, and that's a studying part, understanding where the emissions are coming from and how your purchases, how your daily activities work, and then lobbying for those changes. Go ahead, Pablo, we'll do you, and then we have to leave, Veronica, or what is your deadline?
Do I speak first or Veronica?
Yeah, no, Pablo, go ahead.
Okay. It's just a quick question for you, Mr. Smith. Like, these kind of spaces, as I don't know, someone was saying earlier, I think they're very interesting and everything, but I wanted to ask you, how can we move, like, everything that we've been talking about, how can we take it, like, a step further? How can we go from talking and saying, like, very cool ideas, how can we take a step further and actually start doing stuff, maybe in our communities or as this small community that we have started here? Like, what's the next step?
You asked such an easy question there, Pablo. Easy. So you are on the right track, and how to make it faster is hard. It is, in my mind, this transition that we're going through right now is happening very, very quickly. I think when we try to get all the global population moving in one direction, it's a really a big challenge. And I think the recent events of this past year with the climate change has motivated lots of people. They're seeing the climate changing. And because of that, I think lots of stuff is happening. Billions of dollars, we have $100 billion worth of investment in the United States alone on clean energy technologies and climate change stuff. So I think it's happening really fast. I would continue to push locally, like you said, like we have to be responsible for our own actions and then be pushing others. And sometimes it's hard, it's family and friends, but talking to them about what they're doing and then working, like Ishka said, on our and fast fashion stuff, like being aware of what you're buying and what companies are working to reduce their emissions. And I think maybe getting together more in small groups and having that support network, because some of this stuff gets kind of hard and discouraging. So I think, there are lots of groups, and I have it on my slide set. I'll maybe share it, like what groups to get involved in, or groups that you could start there in your local area to make those changes. I think it's happening quickly. I'm hopeful that way. So is there more you can do? There's more all of us can do, but I don't think there's a one individual thing that we can all be doing to make it faster. I think I'm pretty impressed with how fast it is already. So sorry, it wasn't a very good response, Pablo.
So yeah, so our time is up. So David, if we can just wrap it up, if you want to share the slides.
I will send the slides out. I just had, my hope is in this generation, in the stuff that's going on. I just got a notification for a Green Business workshop talking about accelerating the transition to net zero, which is exactly what we're talking about today. It came across my desk. I'm like, oh, I should share that, because there are lots of people doing lots of stuff. And I think it's knowing that, seeing that, being aware of that makes us all hopeful, makes us more committed, putting more gasoline on our fires to help us do more and more. So I think that's what we need to be doing. So I appreciate all your comments. I'm taking these down. I'm going to listen to the conversation again. And if you have other stuff you want to talk about, feel free to send me an email. Happy to talk more. So, okay.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your time and for all your comments. It was really interesting.
Super interesting. Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you for opening the space for us. It was really nice.
Good. Nice to meet you all.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Welcome,
Bye.
Isabella.
Thank you so much.
Sarah.
Thank you.
Bye.